Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. Tornadoes, high wind, rain, and hail are some of the severe weather threats in North Texas, and we want you to be prepared. With us to talk about that and other emergency management initiatives are emergency management planners Billy Owens and Nick Robison. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, it's a pleasure. And before we talk about all the potentially bad weather and things we could have here in North Texas that we're all too familiar with, let's just find out a little bit more about the office you work in. Can you tell us more about emergency management and what exactly you do, Billy?
Sure. We're a four-person department in the police department. We're all civilians, and what we do is we help the city manage disasters before, during, and after. So what we do is help to do plans, exercise, trainings, and anything that could help the city become more resilient from those disasters.
Interesting. And you said that you're within the police department.
Yes, we are.
A lot of people probably aren't aware of that until you just told them. That's pretty neat. So you guys are actually based there too, in the same area as the police office?
We're actually at a different location, but our group reports directly to Chief Boyd.
I see. Okay. Very interesting. And now that we got that little background on what exactly you guys do and who you work with and what you're responsible for, let's talk to Nick for just a minute to talk about weather. Hopefully it doesn't get bad. We're loving the weather we've had here, most of us anyway, those who like warm winters. We got to enjoy that, but we all know that after winter comes spring and that potential of bad weather, starting with the most scariest thing to many, tornadoes. What can Irving residents do to prepare?
We encourage Irving residents to, there's weather radios out there that they can purchase at the stores. Also, we have some that we give away at different community events. We encourage also to them to listen to the news, broadcasts that, if there's severe weather coming to the city, listen to outdoor warning sirens if they're outside, go inside. Education's key, and also just staying in tune to the community and seeing what's out there when severe weather is approaching.
Good point, and I'm sure a lot of people watching right now are going, you know what, I want to learn more about these sirens and about the things I can do, so we're going to get those questions answered for you right now. Let's have you take that, Billy. Talk to us about the sirens themselves. How are they used?
Sure. We have 25 large sirens that are set out throughout the city. We actually have a map on the city website where you can click through and see the radiuses and where your local siren is. What those are used for in the event of severe hail, strong winds, or tornado warnings, we activate them as a system to get people inside. We call them the outdoor warning system because with the air conditioning today, it's hard to hear them inside. So what they really are designed to do is to get people aware there's a situation going on, get them inside, turn on the radio, turn on the TV, and get more information.
Sure. And Nick, people have heard these sirens they're probably going, what is that noise I hear sometimes? Because you test them, right? So how often are they tested?
They're tested monthly on the first Wednesday of every month at 1 p.m. and they last for about 5 minutes. And if there's severe weather outside or a cloudy day, we do a silent testing, so that way we don't warn the public or give them a sense that something might be happening out there that's not.
Interesting. So how does that work? I didn't even know there was silent testing. So you guys get a signal that's sent to you, or how do you know it's working if it's silent?
There's a silent testing that's done where it pings every siren, and then we get a feedback from the sirens that let us know whether or not they were hit or not, pinged.
Okay, and just curious, if you do these silents or if you do them out loud and you don't hear them or something's wrong, does the city immediately tweak them? Do you guys go work on them? What's done to make sure they are working and keeping people safe?
We do have a city staff that works on it. He works in with our radio shop, and so his job is to go out and test them and to put them up and to test the batteries if there's ever a situation that one's not working. Or a lot of times we depend on the public. If they can't hear one, they let us know and we send him out there and he fixes the siren. So. Good
deal. And speaking of them not hearing them, can people hear them within their home, Billy?
Most of the time you may be able to, depending on how close you are to the siren. But if not, that's why we advocate getting the NOAA weather alert radios. We say the sirens are more the outdoor warning system. This is the indoor warning system. Okay. You can set these for about $30 from CVS or Walgreens, and you can even set them per county. So if something happens in Dallas County and it's in the middle of the night, these radios will kick on and tell you the alert. So you and your family will be protected and aware of the situation.
Interesting. Let's talk more about these radios. Maybe, Nick, you can tell us a bit more about them for people that do decide to purchase them. You go into a store and there's no one like you guys standing by the shelves going, this is the one to get and this is what it's going to do. So we have them here for you. We'll ask those questions right now. When you get those severe weather radios, are they hard to program? What do you have to do to them? How do they work?
They're not too hard to program. Most of them come with directions. You can, like Billy said, you can either program them to your county, or you can even program them up to 4 counties. So we recommend, if you live in Dallas County, which is where Irving's located, to also do Tarrant County, because a lot of storms do approach from the west. So that gives you a heads up when a storm is approaching. Also, if there's any questions you may have, you can contact our office, and we'll be glad to help you set that up.
And let me just say, I know personally that they do work very well, because on a previous show that we've done here at ICTN for Open Line, someone brought one and he said, here, you can have this as a gift. And I took it and set it up like you're supposed to do. And it scared me and woke me up, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But I'm so glad it did, because we really did have severe weather that evening and I was knocked out sleep. And so it did what it's supposed to do, made me aware of the situation and that I needed to take cover. So people need to get them. And you mentioned they're not very expensive, right, Billy?
Right. They're about $30 for a good one that can be programmable, and you can get them at any local CVS or Walgreens.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's talk about something else too that happens here in North Texas quite often, even more so than tornadoes, at least I think. I don't know, you guys are the experts, you tell me. But severe weather can also bring heavy rains and floods. So, Billy, talk about the threat to drivers.
The threat to drivers is a lot of things everyone hears is turn around, don't drown.
Right.
So if you see water on the road and you can't tell whether it's deep or not, chances are just don't do it. We advocate turning around, going somewhere else, and just not dealing with standing water on the roads. Also with those things, it's always about information and being aware. Generally, like here in Irving, we know the places with flood normally. So when it rains a lot, you know not where to go and what not to do. But it comes down to a lot of things like severe weather. It's just awareness, knowing your surroundings and what to do. And if you don't feel safe with doing it, chances are it's not a good idea.
Smart. Well, let me ask you this. How does your department interact when something like that happens? I understand the sirens and you test those, but you mentioned the high water areas and you guys just kind of knowing where the ones are that often flood or have different problems. But if someone does get stuck and they call in to the police department or they call 911 or something's wrong, do they transfer to you? Do you guys handle that too, or do you just kind of do the work to make sure you can prevent those things?
Ours is more on that side as prevention, but we do defer to the response agencies, police and fire, when it comes to situations like that. If it's a large-scale incident, in the past we've had to evacuate one of the mobile home parks near Hunter Farrell, and we've worked with police and fire to help coordinate that operation, getting people in and out just because it's a large-scale event. But normally we're there to be the secondary responders, just to support the first responders, to help them out. So if they need more information or supplies or materials, we're there for them.
Okay.
But generally it falls to them for those things.
Okay. Now I'm going to put them on the spot here, so I apologize for this if they don't know the answers, but you probably do. Tell me some of the areas or the locations where you guys know there's flooding from time to time.
Well, a lot of things like the mobile home park, Hunter Farrell, down there in South Irving. A lot of southwest Irving is in floodplain. So a lot of those areas flood pretty easily. Also on the very northeasternly side area up near Cistercian, and that area is also known to flood, and that area will be shut down quite a bit. It's just the normal places where, it takes a little bit and then you realize where to avoid.
I see. And so do you go out, you watch the news, monitor the weather, and then say, okay, let's go ahead and put cones up now? How far in advance, since you're proactive, do you prepare for these types of situations?
Our streets and traffic department is very proactive with things like this. They know where the areas are themselves because they've been working them so long. And generally, they're already out there before the weather arrives, just to anticipate that, to block them off before a hazard does present itself.
Very good. And you mentioned at the beginning of this part of the conversation about turn around, don't drown. How often do y'all spread the word? I mean, for us in the media, it just kind of rolls out, and now we know that that's something we need to tell and share with the audience. But for people that are not familiar with it, maybe they're new in town or they just haven't heard the saying, do you have a way of spreading that and letting them know, what they shouldn't do? I know there's the billboards that flash on the freeways.
Right. Yeah, a lot of it with us is just word of mouth and public outreach. We do a lot of events where we hand out things about severe weather and preparedness, family preparedness, and that's one of the big things we advocate is flooding and flooding awareness, knowing about turn around, don't drown. Make sure people are aware, because at the end of the day, the best thing people can do is be prepared for themselves and their family.
Sure. We want everyone to stay safe. That's the purpose of the show today. And I want to ask you something else, Nick. Not just the flooding, but when it comes to rain and storms here in North Texas, oftentimes we have to deal with something else that people just can't stand. Hail. I mean, just this past season, we had so many windshields broken out and lots of roof damage. How can people prepare for things like that?
We encourage people to watch the news, have a NOAA weather radio. A lot of times, when we see storms approaching, we try to get that out to city staff, to the public. I think we do a good job here in the Metroplex of dealing with severe weather, of encouraging people to listen to the radio, watch TV. You know, even though we work in emergency preparedness, I'm also a victim of, I've had hail damage the last 2 years on my car as well. So, you know, it's kind of hard to prevent it because you never know when it's going to happen, but we just encourage, you know, people if they see a strong storm coming to take cover and go inside.
So really pay attention to the weather. I mean, you have it out there from television and radio and all kinds of alerts, the billboards warning you. But sometimes it just creeps up on you. And so you mentioned that you were a victim yourself recently, and I too, I was driving someone else's car, which is a really bad thing. But we had the huge hailstorm come through last season where there were like hundreds of cars. I mean, where they were saying, please don't bring your car to the body shops because they're all full. There's no rental cars left in North Texas. It was that bad. And there was a big problem that was out there on the roadways that I want to briefly address, and that is people tend to pull under the overpasses or just stop where it's convenient for them and block the roadways, but that's not safe at all, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, we want to point out that you guys definitely need to seek shelter and be safe in situations like that. Something else that the city has that they're really using to help people keep safe, Billy, is a system called iALERT. How is that used?
Sure. iALERT is a mass notification system. People also refer to them as reverse 911. What it allows us to do is instead of citizens calling us for help, we're calling them for help. So we have a database of information and numbers where we can call businesses and residents to alert them of events such as an evacuation, a shelter-in-place event, a missing person, and things like that. Currently, we don't use it for weather because the speed doesn't allow us to get it to people.
I see.
And so we don't want something to blow through and the messages still to be going or not been received. But we have used it successfully for several things, such as the missing people. We found 2 people so far using the system.
Oh, wow.
And so definitely consider it a success so far.
Wonderful. And let me ask you this, for people listening now going, do I have to sign up for that, or is it something that happens automatically? You mentioned this database. Do you have to sign up for it, or do you just call everybody?
The landline information, if you have a home phone or business phone, we already have that information through 911 data. But if you'd like your cell phone or emails or other information, you can sign up through the city website. And through that, you can sign up for all the different types of alerts and which ones you'd like to receive first, if you'd like to get an email or a text message. And when you do that, we also get another level of information, whereas with the missing people, we can send you a picture of the person. So in case you see the person, you can see them, and there'll be a number there to contact to follow up.
So it includes missing people, the severe weather, or what all does it include?
It could possibly shelter-in-place things, boil water notices. If there was a potentially tactical police situation around your area, we'd send something out to tell you to stay in there for a while. Vector control, such as mosquito control, community awareness, and just community events sometimes. If you'd like to receive those as well, we can do those.
Speaking of community events, there are other ways the community can get involved and help out and make a difference, and one is by participating in CERT. What is that program?
CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team. It's a program composed of people who live or work in Irving, volunteers who come out and learn basic information over a day about search and rescue, first aid, support of all kinds of things. Basically, it's a crash course on public safety issues.
Awesome.
And right now we have about 100 people that have been through the system, and we've got another class coming up that Nick could actually give more information about.
Tell us about it.
We have a class coming up on the weekends of March 2nd and 9th, and we encourage everyone to register at CERT at cityofirving.org, or they can call at 972-721-2184, and we can enroll them in the class. And it's 2 weekends, 2 Saturdays, and it's 8 to 5. And what they'll do is they'll be trained in basic disaster preparedness. They'll have a 101 in terrorism, search and rescue, disaster and medical operations. It's a full 8-course unit. Teaches them a lot of basic first aid and how to prepare at home for disasters and emergency situations.
So all those people that love all those emergency shows, and they're like, I'd love to get that training, this is their opportunity. And then for those who just want to keep safe.
Yes.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned those dates again?
March 2nd and March 9th.
March 2nd and March 9th. And how often are these classes given?
These classes are given twice a year. We do one in the spring and then one in the fall. And we like to have between 25 and 30 per class, and they must go through a background check. And like Billy said, they must either work or reside in the city of Irving.
Okay. And have they been successful in the past? You said you'd like to have like 20 or 30. Have you been able to get that number?
We've had 5 classes so far, and we've averaged about 20 to 25 per class.
Wonderful. And again, how do people sign up?
They can go to, they can email me at CERT, C-E-R-T, at cityofirving.org, or they can contact me at 972-721-2184.
Perfect. And this is really cool too. I know you've worked with a CERT group of high school students that actually got involved and made a difference. Tell us about that group.
Yes, Singley Academy here in City of Irving has a teen CERT program, and we've worked with them training when they've gone out to competitions. We've had our adult CERT team go over and train them and just basic disaster preparedness, go over the curriculum, and also we've assisted them in exercises and drills. And currently we're working on having a teen CERT rodeo, which is a competition among the teen CERT programs here in the Metroplex.
Wonderful. And that's one school. Are you guys targeting other schools? Do you foresee it being in other programs as well?
We would like to see the program expanded. We're talking with the school district, Singley Academy, at moving it down to a couple of the middle schools to target the middle school kids, so when they go to high school, they'll be interested in the CERT program at the high school level.
Interesting. And for them, is it also a 2-day program, or how does it work for students?
I believe theirs is a whole semester course.
Oh, wow.
So they take what we do in 2 days, they do in a whole semester. So theirs is more in-depth training than what we provide on the 2-day course.
I see. And tell us a little bit more about what you learn in the courses. So there's first aid, and maybe, Billy, you want to take this and tell me you're going to do first aid, and what else? What else? I mean, people expect to have like
Sure,
a full.
it's basically a crash course in preparedness.
Okay.
It's a lot of information over a couple days, but it's enough to kind of get your feet wet and understand what's going on. Disaster preparedness, about making kits, knowing plans with your family. First aid, search and rescue, how to search a room, how to look for things like that. How to operate a fire extinguisher. Basic things that people don't think about every day is that it's not just pull it off the wall and shoot it. There's a method to use it, and how to check if it's still good, and the different types of fire extinguishers. And so it's generally a lot of things that are associated with disasters, and even the follow-up. There's a section about disaster psychology, how to deal with a big event, stuff like that, where the information goes. And also terrorism, how to recognize it, know what's going on. And also, since we have such a good staff here with police and fire, we have staff who've experienced these things or experts in it that come in and speak to it and can answer the questions and things that people may not be able to ask every day.
Sure.
So they have a professional in there to help them out.
Wonderful. And is there a fee for this?
No, it's a totally free course.
Okay. And do people leave with different types of brochures and materials? Do they need to bring anything to the class? Because I know with the students, they're in there for a whole semester, so they probably get a little more in depth. But what about these training courses? Do they leave with anything, or do they need to bring anything?
Oh, they'll leave with a CERT backpack, which currently has a hard hat, gloves, vest, basic just attire for a search situation. And the opportunity, if they want to continue training, we have trainings that go on throughout the year where we get the volunteers to come back and do different things. And also, we'll help them by getting sponsored to do other trainings, or if they want to learn more information through other things.
Fabulous. And since it's free to those who want to come and attend, how is it paid for? The city pays for it? Do you have sponsors? How is it done?
Currently, we're funding it through a federal Homeland Security grant.
Okay. Very interesting. Very good. And Billy, what type of emergencies would CERT volunteers actually respond to?
The biggest thing we would use them for is to just kind of augment manpower. Because being as there's roughly around 650, 700 first responders in the city of Irving, so if something very large happened, CERT would be called out to help us do scene control or search and rescue, something like that. It's a great asset because they are individuals who've been trained, they know how things go, they're a background checked force, and they can help us out when they're helping each other out. And really what it all comes down to is more people that are aware and trained that could take care of their families and their neighbors, I mean, the better off everyone will be.
Exactly. And I know people watching right now are probably going, that's really cool. I didn't know I'd actually get to use what I learned in the class, on a first-hand basis, but they may have the possibility to do that. And another thing that people may be wondering is there an age requirement? How old do you have to be to attend the class? I know they have it in schools, but for those who don't have it at their school right now, is there an age requirement?
For us, our program, you have to be 18 years old.
18. Okay, and how far in advance do you have to register? Just whenever you get there as soon, or can you do it on the spot? Can you just show up that day?
No, the sooner the better, because since we do background checks, we have to go through that process. And if the class does fill up, we'll put a waiting list out. So when the next class comes, we'll email you or call you for more information.
Okay. And we've talked a lot about CERT and also about the weather, but what are some of the other concerns that you have to monitor?
Anything from hazardous materials, radiological events. We really have a wide range of things we have to monitor and take care of. Basically, we're just trying to make sure the things that traditionally in the past other staff like police and fire didn't have time to do, we're here to augment them and to make sure there's equipment or facilities or contracts in place. So if something does happen, somebody can be called or we know the right people to put them in touch with.
And I'll just be honest, when you say those different things that you say that you actually cover, I'm sure most citizens like me are going, yeah, how often do you have to do that? But you actually probably do have to respond to some of those things that people would never even imagine you do.
Right.
I can imagine. Okay, so let me ask you this. What about drills or exercises? Do y'all have practice to make sure that you're prepared for things like this, Nick?
We do. We have drills and exercises every year. We're required by Federal Homeland Security for these for grants. We conduct full-scale exercises such as the Convention Center exercise we had a few years ago. We're currently in the planning phase of an active shooter exercise at one of our middle schools.
Oh, wow.
We also do drills with city staff. Anything that we think that may affect the city of Irving outside normal operations, we try to drill on, whether that's the water department, the police department, fire department, any department in the city of Irving that's essential services, we try to drill them on exercises and whatever they may need us to do.
I see. And how do you notify people, or do you notify people to make sure they're aware this is going on? Because I can imagine in this day and time, if you are going to do an exercise like that, say at a middle school, people start to panic. They're like, what is going on? Or they start calling 911 saying, I just drove by and I saw this or I saw that. So how do you combat that and make sure that people know this is a test, this is a drill?
We spend months in the planning process. We try to plan out 3 to 4 months in advance. We're working with Irving ISD on getting this communication out to the students, the city PIO, the school district PIO. We try to work all together so that way no one really thinks this a real event's going on. We try not to scare the community and let them know as much warning as possible that this is just a drill, this is just an exercise. Just stay calm.
That's definitely a good thing this day and time. People need to be warned about that. Something else that's good is that you guys have some improvements that have been made to one of your big vehicles. Tell us about the different changes that have been made to that, the upgrades.
We have a mobile command vehicle, and recently we just underdid about a $500,000 renovation on it.
Wow.
And we've upgraded everything from the computers to the software to the servers to the floor. We basically just gave it a whole makeover to make it more efficient for what we're using it for right now.
And what would you be using for something that's got a $500 upgrade for? What is it used for?
We use it for tactical call-outs, if someone barricades in a house, anything that the fire or police department may need to activate it for. It can just be even for apartment fires. Anything that the fire department or police department deems that we need that mobile command vehicle out there to respond to an incident or emergency.
Wonderful. And I know, Billy, we've talked a little bit about the grants that the city's received because you use them for the CERT program. You've really been great at receiving grants to help pay for a lot of things the city needs to help keep people safe. Like, what else are the grants used for?
A lot of the grants are used for things to augment response or operation capabilities. A lot of things have gone to buying equipment for police and the fire department, such as the mobile command vehicle, our tactical SWAT vehicle, the Bear, bomb squad equipment, hazmat, radiological devices. And we also go through things like critical infrastructure, such as emergency generators for critical sources in the city, security enhancements, planning. It's basically a wide range of things, anything to make the community more disaster resilient and just strengthen us.
Wonderful. And we've talked a lot about what you're doing to make sure people are prepared, all the stuff that you're doing in advance and hopefully keeping people safe. But in the event there is a storm and there is damage and something goes wrong, there's a tornado that rips through Irving or whatever it may be, the hailstorm that we experienced not too long ago, what do you do then? How does your team actually respond after a storm passes?
Sure. Chances are if something like that's happened, we're going to be out there with police and fire staff and other city staff to make sure things are okay. As far as if you've lost property, you lost other things, we'll contact you to make sure you have everything you need, a place to go, maybe shelter, everything like that. Our duty is really to come there and make sure everything is okay with you so that we can make sure that you can continue your business and life as normal. The chances are with any large-scale events, especially severe weather, we're monitoring and ready to go at any time. So with those events, it's all about just being out there and being aware of what's going on.
Wonderful. And you mentioned that you contact the people, but is it possible for people to contact you if they have questions or concerns or something happens and for some reason their name wasn't on the list or you didn't know about them? Can they call you guys as well?
Sure, yeah, definitely. Our main number is 972-721-2100. And if you have any questions about disasters or need contact information or just generally don't know about a process as far as reimbursement for insurance or anything like that, we may not be able to answer the question, but we'll definitely put you in the right contact with the right person.
Wonderful. And we're almost out of time, but before we do end the show, I want to ask you both, and we'll start with Nick, to tell us a little bit about what people can do just to be prepared, since that's really what you guys help do so much, is help people be prepared and hopefully prevent anything bad from happening to them when they're dealing with severe weather or an emergency that's going on here in the city of Irving. And so what can people do? Maybe your top 3, top 5 things. What do you think is most important to help keep people safe?
What people can do to help keep safe is, pay attention to the media, listen to the radio if severe weather is coming. Things will happen. Everyone says it won't happen to me, or it won't happen, period, but it always happens. It may happen not to you this time, but it'll happen sometime. Like we said, know our weather radios. Pay attention to what weather alerts there are out there in the public. Public outreach, just pay attention is the main thing. We try to do as much as we can a year on going out to neighborhood associations, going out into the community to educate them on what are signs for emergencies, terrorism. And so we just ask them to be alert, stay aware of their surroundings.
Good advice. And you like to add to that?
Definitely it's not about, if a disaster is going to happen. It's just about when. Chances are you'll be affected by one of those or multiple, hopefully not multiple, during your lifetime. So the best bet is to talk to your family, have a plan, and have your supplies ready to go. Because at the end of the day, you want to have that there in case something does happen. And if it never happens, that's great, but you don't want to be in the other situation.
Definitely. And let me ask you, you said the supplies ready. For those who are going, what supplies? Please, please, please have Billy tell us what those are. Billy, what kind of supplies should they have? Is it insurance contact numbers? Is it, water? Is it food? What should we have?
It's basically anything you would need for 3 days. The basis of it is a 72-hour kit.
Like medicines?
So medicine, food, water, pet medicine, things that you would need to continue for 3 days. One of the things you'll also need to do is check out sites like knowwhattodo.com or ready.gov, and they have information about lists and documents you should have or things you should keep. So in case something does happen, like cash, something you may need, because these days everybody uses a credit card.
Right.
But if something happened, there may not be
point.
access to the ATM or the machines. So.
Good advice. That's one I hadn't thought of, and I never carry cash. So I guess I need to keep some around for an emergency. We are out of time, but I thank you both, Billy and Nick, for helping us to prepare the audience and make sure that everyone here in the city of Irving is prepared just in case one of those situations that we hope we don't get actually comes here to Irving. So thanks for helping us be prepared.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us live on Thursday, March 14th at 1:30 p.m. for our next edition of Open Line. We'll be talking about the West Nile virus. If you have questions, email them to ictn@cityofirving.org or connect with us on Facebook, and we'll get answers for you on our next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.